Hello and welcome to this special edition of the broadcast that we are bringing to you in collaboration with Voice of America. My name is Mohammed Saleh. Now, the American President Joe Barden and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in fact hailed a new era in the India-US ties after the White House rolled out the red carpet for the Indian Prime Minister, signing deals that are aimed at countering China's influence. The two nations have also announced agreements on semiconductors, critical minerals, space cooperation and defense cooperation.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's official state visit is intended to highlight the many things India and the U.S. share: the linguistic legacy of British rule, a democratic system, and an emphasis on higher education and research. But for the 2.7 million people of Indian origin living in the U.S., this visit also emphasizes deeper, more personal ties. Indian nationals make up nearly 3/4 of the United States' high-skilled guest worker program and hold a significant number of student visas at universities. Modi acknowledged this on Wednesday as he visited the National Science Foundation with First Lady Joe Barden.
Friends, today, India and America need a pipeline of talent to maintain the momentum of growth. While America, on the one hand, has top-class educational institutions and advanced technologies, India, on the other, has the world's biggest youth talent factory, and therefore I am confident that the partnership between India and America will definitely prove to be the engine of sustainable and inclusive global growth.
Analysts say India means business.
At a time when the United States is really keen to diversify its supply chains away from China, to friendshore, to use Secretary Yellen's phrase, India would love to be part of the new supply chains that are being built, and these Indian-American corporate leaders and business people are well suited to see the opportunities in India as part of the greater U.S.-India economic cooperation.
But as U.S. Representative Ro Khanna told VOA, this visit will also include some tough topics.
Of course, we're going to talk about the importance of human rights, of a free press, of the nation's commitment to liberal democracy. But the core of the meeting is going to be how do we strengthen the partnership.
India-focused analyst Richard Rosso noted that for now, the traffic is flowing in one direction. That, he told VOA, may change.
You have a lot of Indians that come here to study and work. A few Americans that have chosen India as a place to do studies or to take employment. So I do think as well, as part of this visit, you might see some announcements that are looking to help balance that a little bit more and get more Americans a bit of exposure to India.
That might be easier said than done. The U.S. State Department has assigned India a Level 2 travel advisory, the exercise increased caution category. Tension has heightened in the country over the past year. India boasts a rich and proud history, a vibrant culture, a wealth of artistic traditions, and, as of this year, according to the UN, population larger than any other countries in the world. In that contest, the United States is in third place. Nita Powell, VOA News, Alexandria, Virginia.
All right, now to give us more perspective, we're being joined by Voice of America's Jessica Stone, who's joining us live in this broadcast. Now, Jessica, Friday's events during the Prime Minister's visit have focused on people-to-people ties between the two nations. So what can we expect going forward?
Well, this morning, Prime Minister Modi is attending a high-tech business event, and he will be dining at the State Department this afternoon for lunch in a joint lunch hosted by Secretary of State Tony Blinken and Vice President Kamala Harris. This is really the first time Vice President Kamala Harris, who of course is of Indian descent, is an opportunity to headline an event with the Prime Minister. Then two more events this evening. We've got the first is with the U.S.-India Strategic Partnership Forum. This is one of the key platforms that really arranges cooperation between the two countries when it comes to research, when it comes to business development, and then a dinner at the Kennedy Center. At the Reagan Building. The previous event is at the Kennedy Center. The dinner tonight is with the Indian Diaspora and Community Foundation with the Prime Minister at the Reagan Building. And a woman by the name of Mary Milben is performing there. She is someone who has sang for many U.S. presidents and has previously sung for Indian Prime Minister Modi, has been learning Hindi, and is going to be singing the national anthem to headline that event. So, yeah. Quite a focus on people-to-people today.
Absolutely, indeed. But in terms of deliverables, what do we expect in terms of that?
Well, I think the key outcome on the people-to-people deliverables, Saleh, is this visa pilot that the U.S. is promised to launch. This would allow H-1B visa holders, of which 3/4 of the H-1B visa holders in this country are from India. So this is the highly educated visa program that most Indians take advantage of to work in the United States. Instead of having to go abroad to renew their visas, they're going to be able to stay in the United States and do that under this pilot program. Now, we don't have the numbers of how many people will be able to take advantage of this program at this point, but we do know that the U.S. government plans to start small and expand the program over the next 2 years. In talking with Indian Americans and Indian nationals over the course of this visit, I understand that this is a very popular proposal and that they are very excited to take advantage of this pilot and its expansion as soon as it becomes available.
Absolutely, indeed. Jessica, do continue to stay on with this because there's another very important and a crucial issue that we'd want you to weigh in upon. Because what's been happening is the US President Joe Barden and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi have pushed back against criticism that discussion on human rights and democratic values had taken a bit of a back seat amidst all the pomp and pageantry of the Indian leader's visit to Washington, which included a state dinner and also an address to the joint sitting of the Congress. Now, the Voice of America's White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara gets you the story.
President Joe Biden underscored the strength of U.S.-India ties as he welcomed Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday at the White House.
I've long believed that the relationship between the United States and India is will be one of the defining relationships of the 21st century.
Modi echoed the sentiment, saying a new world order is taking shape.
In this time period, the friendship between India and the U.S. will be instrumental in enhancing the strength of the whole world.
The world's most populous nation is being wooed by the administration amid U.S. conflict with Russia and rising tension with China. Critics say Washington is doing so at the expense of human rights, a claim Biden rejects.
One of the fundamental reasons that I believe the U.S.-China relationship is not in the space it is in the U.S.-Indian relationship is that there's an overwhelming respect for each other because we're both democracies.
Modi pushed back against criticism that his government targets religious minorities and silences critics.
India and America, both countries, democracy is our DNA. Deep democracy is our spirit. Democracy runs in our veins.
Biden has been urged by more than 70 U.S. lawmakers to raise human rights and democratic values with Modi, including Democratic Senator Ben Cardin.
It's a very important relationship with the United States, but we must wrap it in our values, and India needs to do more to protect the human rights of its own citizens.
Still, Modi was invited to address a joint meeting of Congress, one of the highest honors given to foreign dignitaries. As the first Indian Prime Minister to address a joint meeting twice, he made special mention of the millions of Indian American citizens.
Some of them sit proudly in this chamber. And there is one behind me who has made history.
Modi highlighted key cooperation, including on defense and critical and emerging technologies. Thursday evening, he is treated to a state dinner featuring vegetarian dishes. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News at the White House.
And also Jessica Stone from Voice of America is still with us. Jessica, the visit of the Indian Prime Minister has come after a long-delayed visit to Beijing by the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. Now, how much of the warming of ties between the United States and India is due to Beijing?
Well, we've talked quite a bit about how China is sort of the uninvited guest here, even at the state dinner, that there would be far less pressure on both India and the United States to grow closer together, especially in the strategic sense, were it not for Beijing. But that has really been elevated even over the past few days, because we've had repeated and now confirmed reports that China is working on military training in Cuba. And Cuba is that island that's just 400 miles off the coast of Florida. It is a very sensitive area. The U.S. has a military base there, a military tribunal system there, and having Chinese spies essentially that close to the United States has been a matter of great concern to the United States. We've had Secretary of State Blinken express more broadly the concerns about the PRC being close to the United States. And of course, Beijing has not confirmed any of these reports at this point. But one analyst told VOA, actually, in the course of our reporting, that this could be China's response to the U.S. increasing its military training on the island of Taiwan. Saleh?
Very interesting. Now, India and the United States have got a very different perception of Russia and also the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. So has that shaped this visit and also the relationship between the two leaders?
It definitely has shaped the visit. It has not appeared to shape the relationship between the two leaders. There's a lot of warmth between the two leaders, as we saw throughout the day yesterday. But in terms of the policy positions of these two countries, I mean, they are very different. India remains non-aligned and is not overtly condemning the Ukraine aggression, and is not offering, for example, to cease buying Russian oil, which the United States considers a way to fund the conflict in Ukraine. But it's also a motivation for the United States in the defense sector, because the U.S. has been putting pressure on India to withdraw its weapons relationship from Russia. And there's an opportunity, according to U.S. analysts, because a lot of these Russian-made weapons have proven difficult to maintain. And in fact, the Indian Air Force chief recently said in March that deliveries from Russia to meet India's objectives have not been made on time because of the efforts that Russia is making in Ukraine. So ahead of the visit, we saw the U.S. pressuring the Indian government to green light and overcome some regulatory hurdles inside India for this predator drone deal that was eventually announced during the visit. And it has cleared that bureaucratic hurdle just in time for the visit and enabled the announcements to be made over the course of the visit. It still has some way to go on both sides of this equation, because the U.S. Congress here has to approve it. It has to also overcome export controls, and there are still some regulatory hurdles on the Indian side. We have to see if the Indians accept some of the strings that come attached with this deal. But nonetheless, it is moving forward.
Absolutely, indeed. Thank you very much, indeed, Jessica Stone, for joining us and getting us all those updates there.